next question, you said Def Comedy Jam was right after that. How did you even find out about Def Comedy Jam, and what was that experience like?
So for me, Def Comedy Jam, um, so it's so funny because a lot of people don't really understand the chronological order of how this came about, but we were myself, Hamburger, um, and Cool Bubba Ice and Lenny the Bulldog Man. We all were like the Jersey representation and Jersey representation of the comedians that kind of set up shop at the Uptown Comedy Club in Harlem. Thank you. So we went to the Uptown Comedy Club in Harlem, and in Harlem, um, there was this think tank ran by these two brothers, Andre and Kevin Brown, and where they were actually helping comedians to develop, and that's where we learned how to formulate 6 laughs per minute, how to have a fiery intro, how to end on a high note, and we were actually how to develop our um, stage characters and personas and everything. So, shout out to Uptown Comedy Club and the Brown Brothers for their contribution to pop culture, because a lot of people don't really give them their flowers. So they deserve a lot of credit. Actually, Kevin Brown is an actor now, and he stars on and has starred on a number of network TV shows as well. So we were there at Uptown Comedy Club, perfecting our routines and everything. And there was a celebrity basketball game being played at St. John's University um, with Mark Jackson, who the former coach of the Golden State Warriors and now a TV analyst was organizing, and Dave Snowden, who was organizing the halftime entertainment at the celebrity basketball game, was a regular at the Uptown Comedy Club. So he invited myself, Dougie Doug, Hamburger, Cool Bubba Ice, and Hugh Moore, who's actually a television writer right now, working with a lot of really big stars like Tracy Morgan and the like. He all of us were performing at halftime at this very raucous celebrity basketball game at St. John's University in Queens, and every star that you can think of in hip hop was there, thanks to Mark Jackson and Russell Simmons. Um, so Run DMC was there, LL Cool J was there, Fresh Prince was there. Um, all these celebrities were there, and we were the halftime entertainment, but we were backstage, like literally shaking in our boots, because every comedian that went out there, the crowd was like just booing them, because up to this point, the crowd only saw or learned behavior from the Showtime at the Apollo crowd on how to treat young black comedians. So here we are in this gym of all places at center court trying to make 5,000 people laugh. And I remember being backstage, and the first couple of comedians got booed. And then I got introduced, and I was lucky enough to have a hip hop beat as my intro. So I came out to Mark the 45 Kings 900 number. I'm not sure if you remember that, but so the beat hit first when they introduced my name, and the crowd started dancing and partying. So I took advantage of that, walking out to the crowd, and just hyped it up from there. And I told a couple of jokes, and then I transformed into Shantae, which was one of my most popular characters at the time. And when I transformed into Shantae, at the very moment that I was transforming into Shantae, Mike Tyson was walking into the basketball game and was seated right in front of me, and it was just like this comedic moment that you could not have asked for the universe to provide for you, and in full character and Shantae, and I was feeling it, and the crowd was feeling me. I just went and just started clowning Mike Tyson and doing cartwheels and teasing him and everything, and the crowd just loved it. They're going crazy. And then for my for my finish, I just had something just told me just run and jump in his arms and see what happens. And I literally ran and I jumped in his arms, and by instinct he caught me, and the crowd just went berserk. I mean, like you had all these like hardened, New York City cats that was there just booing comedians, and then all of a sudden they went from booing comedians to like running through the aisles, slapping high five, rolling down the aisle. And so that moment, and there's no doubt in my mind for myself and Dougie Doug and Cool Bubba Ice, Hugh Moore, Hamburger, everybody who was there knows that that was the place where Russell Simmons was introduced to young black comedians. This emerging crop of young black comedians that was not discovered yet. And so from that night on, Russell Simmons started frequenting Uptown Comedy Club in Harlem. And he originally was trying to work out a deal with the Brown brothers to do a TV show for HBO. And somehow or another, in the deal making, it never materialized with the Brown brothers. It became Def Comedy Jam, what we now know as Def Comedy Jam. So, and that's how Def Comedy Jam came about.
Oh wow, man! Thank you so much for sharing that history, man. It's like you were a part of a black comedian renaissance, like you say. People's perspective of black comedians was changing at that time, and you definitely were at the forefront of that movement. So I want to thank you again for your contribution, and also making that analysis for the viewers to understand. Now the Uptown Comedy Club, they eventually ended up on TV, right?
Absolutely. The Uptown Comedy
Okay.
Club did eventually. Absolutely, they did eventually end up on television, and at that time, I mean, like this all happened like in the span of like 6 months to a year. We went from having no representation to having all these options. There was Showtime at the Apollo, still featuring like one comedian per show. There was the Apollo Comedy Hour, which was a skit comedy show that featured skits. I was fortunate enough, blessed to be a cast member there, and comedians. And then there was Uptown Comedy Club that featured comedians, and then there was, of course, Def Comedy Jam, and with all the other shows that came after that, like the shows from BET and so forth.